Kenyans hate and are angry with the ongoings in the country. And if we don't speak to them and take action, we will go nowhere. It was never the finance bill. It was simply that the finance bill was a trigger. Why? Because public servants, led by ministers, are very, Mr. Speaker, corrupt. And people hate this, and people are angry. Yesterday, colleagues, I was called by a minister whose name I don't wish to bring on the floor because it's not necessary. And he was very angry with me for the position that I have taken, especially over the weekend in Navakholo, over corruption in the cabinet. He told me very many strong and bad things. Because people who the other day we were working with here want to think because the Constitution has given them a different office as opposed to the offices as ourselves we have been given, they are therefore in high heaven, they should be worshipped. Nobody should mention their name, even when they are wrong. Mr. Speaker, people are angry and hate public servants because of our own making. The public display of wealth and opulence, unless members of the public can quickly see where you've gotten it, they will not be happy. Over the weekend, I was speaking of a young member of parliament from my community who has bought a helicopter. And I know him very well. I wish him well to continue accumulating wealth. I wish him well to continue accumulating wealth. But please, I'm asking the president to ask himself, how can the membership of an MP to a committee of parliament be the basis for him to be able to afford some of the things that are not affordable? The SRC, led by Lynn Cherop Megich, you are completely out of order, completely out of order. How dare you publish salary increments for public and state officers at such a time as this? What exactly do you want to achieve? In fact, Mr. Speaker, because the majority leader, when he was moving this motion, he said that there are some institutions that must appear before us. The first institution should be the SRC. Who has sent them to fuel discontent in the country at a time that this country is bleeding? Who does that? Mr. Speaker, I want to echo the words of my leader, the minority leader in the Senate. We as senators, and we will pass it as a resolution at the end of this motion, we are not interested in that pay rise. We are not interested. In fact, one of the conversations that we have been having, and it will crystallize by the end of this motion, is where do we cut our own budgets as a Senate, as individual senators? For the SRC to do what they have done, I want to say this on the floor of this House: shame on that institution, and shame on Lynn Cherop Megich.
All right, that is what played out on the floor of the Senate yesterday. Many saying that the demands of Gen Z are now shaping national dialogue and that state officers are beginning to speak the language of the people. In studio with us for this conversation, we have former LSK President Eric Thauri, Stephen Buru Munania, who is the Murang'a County Deputy Governor, as well as CPA Julius Ruto, who is a Member of Parliament and a member of the Finance Committee of the National Assembly. Honorable Ruto, I'd like to begin with you. and the comments of Senator Enoch Wambua there. Now, you took issue with the headline of the People Daily saying pay rise for greedy MPs now frozen, largely because the pay rise wasn't targeting members of parliament alone. But Senator Wambua asks, we need to be asking, where can we begin cutting our own budget as Senate? And many have asked, where can National Assembly cut its budget as well? Are we looking at state officers cutting their own budgets for austerity measures?
I think Eva was lean, Mengich, Jerop, this is the right time she needs to move. I think she's been facing a lot of difficulty there before. I remember there was time, she was facing difficulty in proposing cuts on some unnecessary expenditure, like travel expenditure, you know, per diems, foreign travels, you know, the classification on foreign travel. She faced a lot of challenge. But today, when members of parliament are able to speak with audacity in the floor of the House, if I were her, she need to call in a committee, the commissioners, and initiate a process, because there is the will now. The GNCs have managed to bring down the boastfulness and the pride of this leadership. For myself, being a first member of parliament and coming from a devolved function where I served for 5 years, I want to agree with the discourse that is happening now. That look at this, we cannot cheat ourselves. The disparity between the level of income among Kenyans, those in top and those in the bottom, is so huge that we need to arrive at equilibrium level or an optimum level where we are able to balance the ability to spend. We may not have the same position because of the responsibilities that is associated with a given position, but as I'm saying, let us evaluate ourselves and put the coin where it deserves. It looks like the policies that we've run for quite some time, more than 10 years, has been concentrating the coins at the level where it's not able to turn it back, you know, the turner period. If it was put on a productive area, by now we should not be discussing this one. It has only been going on a consumption, salaries, travels. You see, it costs one individual. But if we begin now to discuss, hey, look at this, we can manage your expectation. We can reduce your expectation. And again, Kenyans, again, as they have come now, we need also to agree and say, look at this, let's stop the attitude of looking so much into the politicians to provide for you. They're also human beings and their families. Let us ask them, because this is where legislation is taken, is undertaken, then we redirect the resources to the production area where every Kenyan will participate, be it in agriculture, be it in trade, be it in all sectors value chain, and then be able to see the employment being created there. I think we are the right position to discuss that. But you said something about what will happen now with the appropriation bill that was signed.
Talk to us about the appropriations bill, because there's been a lot of concerns over the honesty of the situation, considering the back and forth.
Now, you need to know,
of borrowing 1 million shillings, for example.
You need to appreciate that
1 trillion.
Finance bill was not the only document that would determine the budget process. Article 221 depicts that the CS Treasury is supposed to table 2 months to the end of the financial year an estimate of expenditure together with the revenues, which the CS did so. Only that the finance bill serves to inform the changes in the existing laws. Remember, we have the Income Tax Act. Remember, we have the VAT Act. We have the Excise Duty Act. We have Miscellaneous Act and many other related acts, be it on environmental issues. What the finance bill was coming is to address probably the certain changes on the expenditure side, which is would cause increase from the existing laws, and that is why the finance bill is there. So what happens after signing? Immediately when we get back to the floor of the House, I'll be expecting supplementary one to be coming into the floor of the House. Supplementary one now will be able to address the signed appropriation bill to align with the resources. Meanwhile, it is able to, after signing the appropriation bill, it gives powers now to the National Treasury to begin to operate and support the evolution, support the sectors to work. Otherwise, without that one, July is here. We need to provide medical drugs to our facilities. We need to address the issues of agriculture. We need to address all the sectors. So the appropriation bill, in the meantime, is able to run the country. But immediately after that one, supplementary one, coming in to be able to cure all these proposed pay cuts, be it being recurrent expenditure, be it being slowing some given ambitious areas of development, you know, all those now will come to be corrected.
When you say aligning resources in line of withdrawal of the finance bill, what do you mean? Which resources are we talking about? President William Ruto said it took us about 2 years back, but also mentioned that the state would then have to increase borrowing by 1 trillion.
Already, Michelle, the proposed cuts in the budget are resources. Because the moment you cut on a given area that you are focusing as a priority, which now it can be delayed a little bit with the fact that now the anticipated resources has been cut short by virtue of withdrawal of the finance bill. So those particular resources which have been committed elsewhere, which is a non-core priority areas, will be now shifted to a core priority areas.
What does the president mean when he says the state would increase borrowing by 1 trillion shillings?
Well, when the president was being interviewed on that, he was giving a situation analysis. But remember, we have a lot that is capping the budget ceiling. I mean, the borrowing, the debt ceiling. So even if we want to borrow, we have a limit.
Right.
So you understand. So definitely our character has to change. Our expenditure character has to change. We will not rely only on borrowing. Even right now, the conditionalities around borrowing alone. I saw the other day comments of IMF saying now Kenya is in a brim of defaulting. If we continue pumping the loans to this country, it may not be able to discharge, I mean, the same. So what means that we have to live within our means, Michelle and Kenyans. We have to live within our means as we sort out our way out. Some of the discussions that have happened here, including the issues of devolution, duplication of functions, I think these are welcome national dialogue that should come in immediately and be able to reevaluate. Maybe this is again, the GNCs are helping us to sort out the problems, which nobody are there to do.
Yeah, the many say the Gen Z movement is bringing economic
yes,
integration.
You see.
Munania, your thoughts on this? Because there are many, look at, there's a page on the People Daily, page 14, says how,
and Michelle, you
how
like this,
the IMF failed President Ruto.
Yeah,
But you also see,
Michelle,
but you also see, I
you
think
seem to like this paper. It carries a lot of.
I also think the conversation here, when you talk about that IMF failed President Ruto, I think that's a little bit dramatic in terms of what is expected, because I think His Excellency the President had the best intention in terms of reducing the debt reliability in the country. But when we come to the actual expenditure, when it comes to how to reintegrate that and how to view now expenditure when it comes to the priorities of the nation, I think we need to be very candid about this. And one of the issues that maybe the county governments are going to have an issue is the reduction on the share of revenue, because counties as they are right now, they are left at bare minimum to provide services, because they have one of the largest areas in terms of providing services, not even in mostly development, but actual services, because you look at sectors of healthcare, agriculture, education. We have a direct responsibility to pay teachers who are giving services, to pay employees who are giving services. Look at areas, for example, like even the maintenance of even our towns, the metropolitan towns within the counties. They are the responsibilities of maintaining those infrastructure, maintaining their cleanness by staff. Not by development, by staff who require pay. But also, let me also be very candid with the National Assembly represented here by the MP for Keses. When you talk about, they are the National Assembly, they are the one who are making all the rules, they make all the regulations. At the county level, we are the consumers of the laws made with the National Assembly and the Senate. Right. There is one thing that they have not said, even with their livid conversation in the floor of the House. Nobody is willing to give up their allowances, their sitting allowances. That would be a huge change in terms of the expenditure. Because remember, if, for example, they earn a salary of 600,000, their allowances get up to 400,000 a month. Their sitting allowances, you go to a conference here, go to a certain there. And I want to challenge them. Like for any person who wants...
constant conference done by counties in Mombasa, in Nakuru, all over.
But no, you see, they are the law making, a finger. No, you see, I'm saying they are the conversation having in the floor of the House to make the law, right? if they need to make that law, it's the same conversation. And I'm not saying that we are immune to that conversation.
Because you're both government officials now.
Yes.
So let's get your bill.
Yes, they should be the number one point to
the conversation now is
but
to
holding that
to
ground.
push the wage
This is where we are going to have a
towards
problem, Michelle. Look at the way counties are saying.
of the
They want to begin discussion of holding hard ground. So I'm saying, oh, look at it. It's not us. This is all of us.
No, you are the one making the laws.
This is all of us.
You are the one making the laws. We are country of laws.
You also have a county assembly that makes the laws.
The conversation now, even from members of parliament themselves, is that a lot of money can be saved through the monies allocated to Parliament, the National Assembly and the Senate in allowances. We had the Nairobi senator there saying he has about 377,000 shillings in his fuel card, and even he thinks it's too much. So what are your expectations when President William Ruto says heads will roll? What are your expectations
I think that was a misconception of statement, because Parliament corrected itself yesterday. So we don't even need to discuss that, because Parliament gave out a position saying that what happens under Parliamentary Service Commission, for those leaders in the House, they have a vote aid that takes care of the mobility of the leadership. So that 377 is not meant for Sifuna, but all leadership. It is a one vote, one invoice, one check. So that ETC covers all the listed. So I don't know how Sifuna, and with all this experience, is able to mislead and deceive Kenyans when he knows very well it is not his only car.
And also legally, what are the legal possibilities in reducing the wage bill to 35%?
I don't think that there is a magic bullet that we can fire and get to that threshold that we are looking for. I think we will have to come up with institutional and policy changes. There have been discussion that has come in government in terms of merging or parastatals that are undertaking duplicious work. I think that is one area we can look at and try and see if there is a saving that can be made in that area. I think we can look at the aspect of devolution, where there's been no true and proper transfer of functions and resources, and try and see if we can be able to transfer some of these resources. But the one thing that I really hope will come out in all of this, because I feel that we are concentrating so much on superlatives. The biggest problem we have in this country and why we are where we are is this thing people call the youth bulge. We keep talking about it, yet we don't do anything about it. Why I have certain challenges is that you find that because we are constrained in raising resources, what are we looking at? We are looking at areas where these youth are now trying to come up so that they can be self-employed, self-generating, the ICT, the digital economy. And what are we doing? It is the area, because now we are seeing that this area is growing, is the area that we are overtaxing. And on the other hand, we are not, in terms of legislation, coming up with enabling legislation to allow even that sector to even grow so that it can employ more. Yes. And I think it is important for me to see a shift in the focus in terms of even how we are doing our budgets, in terms of how we are doing our Finance Act. And I want to say that the last Finance Act, the one that has been rejected, had extremely good proposals in terms of how we can grow certain sectors, in terms of amendments to the law that would have made it easier for tax administration and so many other things. They got lost in the process. And I think it is important to have that conversation and I begin to ask ourselves, how can we allocate our resources into sectors that can then grow and create job opportunities? Is there a way, for example, we can look at, and I just want to say this, a traveling expenditure and say, if we reduce this by this much and we take this money and we put it, for example, into manufacturing, are we able to generate jobs in this sector, or are we able to reduce the cost of doing business in this sector, because once you reduce the cost, then you're dealing with the aspect of inflation and you're reducing the pain that a lot of members are feeling. And that is the conversation that I hope we can have, because I don't think Kenyans have a problem in paying taxes. They pay their taxes, but what they're having a problem with is that we pay hefty taxes, but then when I want to take my child to school, I go to the nearest public school, I find they don't have facilities, so I have to pay more. So why am I paying taxes?
And many ask then, can the current government learn from the Kibaki administration? Some ask, how did he raise taxes without protest? Could it be perhaps the accountability in showing where the taxes went and where did the rain start beating us? But let's take some feedback as we begin to wind up. Not Kenyans are saying on the state of the economy as Kenya begins its financial year of 2024-2025. We have Henry Edward there who says, CPA Ruto, will and when is the new finance bill being tabled? Also, Speaker Wetangula, direct your committee to help withdraw the finance bill. How far, now that you're on recess, and timelines before it automatically becomes law is on the 11th of July. It's a concern that we do need to demystify. So we'll be giving it to Honorable Ruto to respond to that. But let's take a look at more feedback. Musawa Mulindi says, we are the millennials and Gen Z. We the millennials and Gen Z know very well if the budget cuts on unnecessary votes and corruption is addressed, there'll be enough resources to cater for employment of intern teachers and medics. It's time the president stops the defense of the rejected finance bill. And we have Dan Mugo says, it will be interesting to see how President Ruto implements this. Budget cuts and scaling down on recurrent expenditure will be key in regaining the public's trust in government. Massive redundancies in the waiting. We have Zainab who says, immediate austerity measures by the president and presidency, reduce operational costs, reduce travels, calls on the executive to do the same. Parliament and judiciary should take the budget cut to ensure we live within our means and respect the loud message of our people. Fred Korir says, in the next 2 years, Kenya will not have debt and no taxes increase because Kenya's economy can do mega projects without external borrowing if Ruto seals all loopholes. You can have a budget of 3.7 trillion only to see helicopters and big cars. I believe he says you can't. But let's begin to wind up, gentlemen, with very brief comments. I'll begin with you, Honorable Ruto. That big misconception, or it remains misinformation on what is the status of the withdrawn finance bill now.
Thank you. The day the president reverted back with memorandum is now in the hands of parliament to reject the president's, or if they go silent, the memorandum of the president stands working now. So as we talk, the entire proposal to delete is in force until and when if parliament has any reason to reconsider the memorandum, the content of the memorandum. So I want to assure Kenyans, as it is, I didn't mean that the president had gone silent, then the opposite would have happened, that after 14 days, the whole thing would be effective. But now he has returned back to the parliament. So it's in the floor of the House, and there's no time limit that parliament has to discuss it. But it's not going to be effective. So the provision of 14 days has been defeated by the returning of the bill to the House with memorandum. Lastly, I agree with what Kenyans are saying. I think it's not difficult. The question is, it's all about sacrifice. Kenyans sacrifice their expectation. Executive also sacrifice their expectation, and then we arrive at equilibrium. And it is possible if we accept to live in
Lastly,
is bringing out an issues on parastatals. I think, Michelle, it's the right time that we discuss about privatization. We have a lot of parastatals that are underperforming. They are only cost centers. They are consuming without giving back. I think it's time we need now to appreciate. There was a time President had proposed, but it never went down with Kenyans well. It is now the right time to discuss. We scrap off some unnecessary parastatals that are only consuming cost and they're not giving back, they're not creating employment. Let's give it to private sector for competitiveness, for proper management, you know.
All right.
Yes.
All right.
So I want to agree on that one. Otherwise, I want to assure Kenyans that we are the right prime of decision making, of growth as Kenya, that we will regain back our sovereignty if only we accept to live within our means.
Right, and Kenyans want to see public trust restored in the parliament.
And I think that is why when the president say I'm soul surging, maybe you had mentioned something, maybe I need to part that one. That those in power need to worry. I don't know what is the outcome of this soul surging of the president, but president has to reconfirm back the trust of Kenyans in his administration. So, and any decision he's going to make, be it be painful, be it be sweet, I think it's the right decision for Kenyans. And the president is at
No, and
liberty now
Kenyans
to
are
go with
working on
Kenyans than to go with friends, than to go with me as his member of parliament. Thank you.
Munania, your final comments, very briefly, please.
My final comment would be on, I understand that there are difficult decisions that the president has to make. But one thing that I would really plead with the National Assembly and the Senate when it comes to reconsidering the financing counties is to look at counties in terms of what they are being able to do and what those resources, when those resources are removed, what they are going to hurt. And I'm going to give a very good example. For example,
very briefly,
if we have a reduction of even 300 million, for example, in my county, then it means that some of our largest projects, such as funding a healthcare scheme for 42,000 people in Murang'a households, is not going to be as effective as it should be.
Let's wind it up there.
And so that's some of the things that we really need to take care of. So I need to plead with the Senate and especially the National Assembly and the Senate so that we can be able to achieve those goals.
Very briefly, please, your final comments.
No, I think we have a moment where we have to inspire the country. And I think that if we are to inspire the country, we have to look at impact. Everything that we want to do, what will be the impact? The impact on Mwananchi. So if we are to cut budget, let us be informed by what will be the impact. Impact in terms of consequences and impact in terms of spurring
Development. Absolutely. Many thanks for joining us. That is the former President of the Law Society of Kenya, Eric Theuri. Also with us in studio is Murang'a Deputy Governor Stephen Munania, as well as Keses Member of Parliament, CPA Julius Ruto. Gentlemen, many thanks for your time this morning, and thank you for watching and engaging us on this conversation on the state of the economy. My name is Michelle Ngele Odhiambo. Many thanks for watching. Good morning.